My first question, as this is a symposium on cultural diplomacy, and especially the students are aware of what cultural diplomacy is, and as we were hearing earlier in the speeches, why do you think it's so important for civil society to play such a vital role in facilitating cultural diplomacy?
Okay, I will make a kick. For me, generally citizens, they are also the actual people who are taking very important role because they are facing with problems in the first phase. So when we actually keep the problem solving at the level of institutions, government, and different bodies, which actually none of the, let's say, most of the citizens doesn't have any more trust. Organizations also, as I mentioned before, giving different channels, opportunity for individuals to take part and take initiative in these challenges. It can be about actual challenges that we are facing today. For me, the problem cannot be solved with one institutional approach or with one political understanding. That's why non-governmental organizations are giving different perspective. They are also representing the society, the citizens or their members. So they are also bringing a new voice, and they are part of the triangle. If I don't know, maybe in your studies you have this magical triangle that also institutions, governmental or let's say international institutions, civil society organizations, and the citizens themselves, in order to solve, or in our topic, for social inclusion as well. You cannot just expect from the government, or you cannot just expect from the citizens to include the newcomers to the society, but also there are other bodies which are, in our case, civil society organizations that are completing the triangle and helping the inclusion process.
I really connected with what you said about the need for multiple approaches, and I think civil society is a fantastic way of trying out all the different ways that we can engage. I think that civil society and local communities in particular are the best ones. They're the experts in their area. They know their needs. They know on the ground what needs to happen, and they have the networks. So these are the people that we need to be working with. We need to be learning from them. And I also think there needs to be more dialogue between governments and civil society. So if you saw before in the presentation on SINGA, we have the SINGA lab where we try and learn from the community, take it back, reflect, analyze, innovate, and then try and feed that back into the community. There needs to be more of a loop, a connection, and a dialogue.
Maybe for cultural diplomacy to be effective, I think requires that aspect of experience and participation. So kind of to personally be part of something to maybe change the way you perceive other cultures. And I just don't know how much the government or any official administrative institutions can achieve that and can bring people in the same way that civil society organizations can do, especially because they are on that level.
I think also there is a need of us there. We are supplying a gap. There is a gap in between the rules and what is big institutions and administration. So we need to be there actually. They don't do what we do, and they don't approach in the same way to them as we do. So that's important.
Thank you for your answers. So following that point, especially thinking about how there's a gap between institutions and the populations that they're trying to serve, and how civil society really is connected with the same people facing the issues that we're talking about. So I want to actually revisit the point that you made in your presentation about how do you reach the people who are even cynical or hesitant to attend civil society initiatives?
I think you don't reach them at all. I think people is very clear. If they want to cooperate and they want to get involved, they do it. In the moment they don't like it, they just stop. and you can't really force anyone to do something like that. It needs to really come from a conviction, something that you really believe that is needed. So I don't think we can just keep on working and showing results with the time, and maybe some people will see that it is worth it, but otherwise I think there are many skeptical people about our work, and yeah.
I think we can always improve our scope, so I don't think that we can't reach, there's people that we can't reach at all. Yeah, like maybe they don't come. But I want to share an anecdote that made me reflect about exactly this. I mean, or two anecdotes. One, just a quick point, we do have at our festivals atheist music groups as well. So just in terms of representation, I think it makes a statement that there aren't people that we don't want to include. But the anecdote I want to share is at our Berlin festival. We had this wonderful caterer, Persian caterer, who did like lovely shawarma, falafel, whatever. And this German gentleman comes up to me and says, "Why don't you serve any pork?" Like, I said, "Well, we have a couple of guests here that don't eat pork, and there are wonderful meat options here for you to eat." So, well, but the majority of Germans likes pork, and if you're trying to be inclusive of everybody, you should also serve pork, because I think you can't just show respect for the minorities; you have to show respect for the majorities. That's when I got a little bit annoyed, and I said, "Well, if the majority of Germans enjoys Muhammad caricatures, I'm still not gonna show them either. And if you really feel like pork, go down to Hermannplatz, get yourself a nice sausage, and you'll be okay, and then you can come back later, no worries, you know? In the meantime, why don't you try some of this nice beef or chicken or whatever it was?" And then I left the conversation at that. Later I come back, this gentleman is enjoying a nice shawarma, and being in the music in the theater, bouncing to some Arabic tunes from our Muslim group, Naba Inshad. You know, and it just made me realize in that moment that the fact that we are offering something, I don't know, like even just free music or whatever, you never know who you reach if you try to come up with new ways of doing what you do and try to just be open to everybody. Like I could have just told him, like, you know, you're not the kind of person we want here, so just leave. But I didn't say, you know, and in the end, I felt like even though he was like raising his own barriers to actually be part of something, he managed to be part of it anyway. And I don't know what changed in his head today, if anything changed, if he would think differently about the people on stage who don't eat pork. But he was certainly enjoying their music, and he was part of that event. I don't know what other things he saw that day that maybe changed his mind or even just opened some new perspectives to him. But
and speaking of changing people's minds or changing perceptions, I think that's a real process. So we won't be able to achieve it with one event, but I think if you invite people and they come, it's a step. So similarly to the interfaith concerts, events that we have, like our open mic night, are open to everyone. People come along that we've never seen before, and they're incredibly welcome. And they already get a sense from the community that there's a warmth there, and they feel they want to come back, and they may not even know what SINGA is, and sometimes that's a good way to get people in to then be enjoying the event and then find out as a byproduct and then want to get more involved. So I think it's about trying to create events that are based on people's interests and talents and shared passions, and then using that as a platform to later engage in a more profound dialogue. But in terms of trying to reach out to people whom it might be a little bit harder, I'd say we do have to start from our own networks. So for example, people naturally gravitate towards our organization because they resonate with what we do. But then if you think about each of these people, they'll know people within their network, whether it be friends, brothers, neighbors, co-workers, that they could introduce the organization to or invite them to come along to our events. And that's something that we need to make more of, because I think there's a huge potential there to try and reach out from our network to all the networks that spread out from there.
I guess we are lucky in this case because we are living in information age. So there is many tools to reach what we really need. And when we reach, maybe we can say to reach is important, yes, sure, but after that is also important. So as our organization, what we do is like with our projects to choose first the correct topic in the correct time, and then later to be honest with your and let's say target group or your participants, because they are youth, you are youth, and the only one way to which we can change the world by youth, with youth. And this is the information age. We have to focus on that, and we have to improve first ourselves for this, whatever aim we have in our NGO. So this is what I think actually. You want to add something?
Thank you for that. So I want to reflect briefly on sort of this idea of agency, especially since, you know, we're all talking about sort of community-led initiatives. And I know a few of you mentioned in your presentations the importance of sort of just creating the safe space, and then from there the participants sort of can make of it what they will. And I want to ask you, how important is it, do you think, that there is some sort of structure or aim in mind when creating these initiatives? So speaking of the topic of like social inclusivity, like, do you have that in mind as you're creating these projects? Like, is there an end goal, or do you just sort of create the space and then from there it's up to the participants to sort of make of it what they will?
Okay, so I give time for you to think. Okay, because we actually presented some of our projects, so it's a different range of projects we have. Mostly, yes, we create this space, we create this necessity, let's say, needs and information that they need, and what they take, it's up to them. So we, first of all, try to develop this comfortable, let's say, area. But mostly when we start to make these projects, we focus on the basic needs of our target group. We don't develop the projects based on our needs, our vision. We mostly first make analysis what our target group exactly needs, and then if we based on that project and we build it based on this analysis, then it comes automatically. So we don't need to do extra work, but we make the extra work before creating the project, and then the process goes more smooth, and they also feel part of it. They feel also committed to the project because it's actually referring to exact their needs. Of course, we are not 100% successful in that, but we are making more effort. After making several projects, now we are mostly putting the target group in the main focus, and then it's together we build.
So, addressing the idea of whether we have a driving principle behind our projects when we're trying to also give people agency, I think everyone who comes to SINGA is attracted by the idea of an inclusive community, and that can look like many different things. And that's why, for example, in our social projects, our volunteers have complete agency to create what they want, as long as it's inclusive. And we have a level of agency as well in terms of how committed or how much volunteers want to give as well. So we've had people come to us with ideas, and they've been wonderful ideas, very ambitious. And then we also realize that throughout time, the contact gets less, people kind of drop off the radar, and that's okay. Like, we are not trying to force anyone to volunteer as well. So if someone comes to us and they have an idea and they want to put it into practice, they need a bit of support, they maybe want us to connect them with people, but then it's their project. They take ownership of it, and it's their success as well. So I think it's about having a structure. So for example, we have community meetups where we connect people. We also give them a few tools to be able to work on their projects by themselves. We have ongoing contact with them as well, meetings and support through some of the events. But it's also up to volunteers to create the community that they want.
And maybe we can add like the certification, because we did many projects and we had many volunteers in our project. I believe volunteerism is a kind of not just everything free in volunteerism. Like you spend your time, but finally you are trying to get another benefit, which is not money, which is not material maybe, which can be for your career or another thing. So if we provide this kind of tools to our target group or to our volunteer, then we can, after we give a space, after we show the door, then I guess they will become like us, or they will become more supporter for the civil society. This is what I think also.
For me, this is more like working in a life organism somehow. You create a platform, a structure from what you can offer, from your vision, your mission, but you keep it open to develop together with your team, together with the participants, with actuality, with things that happened. This way is creating different structures around you. And there is a difference I see in between the rules of association and the projects you create, because projects somehow are serving a specific need, and they are evolving or changing all the time, but the core structure should be grounded and should has a clear statement and values, I think.
Yeah, I must admit that I feel like the aims and the vision of what you can actually achieve with your work also develops as you go along. So I think it's perfectly fine if you start with a project that you just feel like doing that because you feel like it's going to do some good, even if you're not 100% clear about what it does, because you might only find that out in the process. And even if you had a very clearly predefined aim, you might find that maybe that's not really what your project does, but it may do something else, and it's also okay to admit that and to to find new ways, and also to, I guess, react to more short-term problems and needs that you see. I mean, when it comes to social inclusion, coming from a political science background myself, I think that marginalization and discrimination has a lot to do with identity discourse that do othering, that even allow for certain people, for certain groups to be marginalized and others not to care, society not to care. So I guess even to combat this othering of others, or is an important step towards then them, like, to society caring more about their marginalization and wanting to include them more. But on a more realistic note, I think that there, beyond cultural projects, there are really important other steps that do have to be taken to promote social inclusion. So I myself am a political activist as well, working in a group with the Social Democrats on migration and diversity, trying to actually shape political agenda, trying to shape laws and lobbying on that stage. So I think it has to be a comprehensive approach. We do cultural projects and they're really good and they're really important, and they do combat, identity discourse that allow for marginalization and discrimination. But then we shouldn't forget that there is other important political work also to be done that maybe is not so much about culture, and it is a lot about hard work and going through laws and motions and amendments, that has to be done as well. So it would be naive to say that our projects can achieve everything, but they do make an important contribution.
Thank you. I actually want to follow that point and talk about collaborative efforts with institutions. And so I want to actually ask you, do your organizations also work with governments, institutions, and if so, in what capacity? And also, do you think that there needs to be a relationship between the two? Or, I think that's an obvious answer, but in what capacity do your organizations work with institutions?
Yes, we work with governmental institution, also another NGO, and actually we need that because we have more or less always small budget of our project, and we especially for our project, mobility project, we cover the participants' cost, travel costs, we cover more or less everything, and we need a support for actualize more better project, let's say. This is, I really care of this actually point. So yeah, we work basically.
Also, we are actively, let's say, used as a consultant body. So when new policy development, or if, for example, the evaluation of the ongoing programs at national level and at European level, also sometimes they are inviting us to give opinion. and to actualize the ongoing strategies and their budget, and also the approach they have. I also find it very, very useful because they are also trying to reach to individual level, to citizens, let's say, as an individuals, with the policy that comes from, now it's even from the commission level, let's say, we can also talk about. So there is a gap in between, and also we are covering this double-faced, let's say, consultations, and also the impact. Also, they are getting information through us. So in this matter, we are trying to support as well in this cooperation.
So now I'm going to have to talk about the SINGA network, because here in Germany we've only been around just over a year. But SINGA France, which has been active since 2012, has a lot of dialogue with government, and in fact one of their programs, Calme, Comme à la Maison, is a program that gained a lot of attention. It became well known across France as it was inviting people to open up their homes and host newcomers. And as it gained a lot of attention, it also gained the attention of government, and it actually became institutionalized in policy. So this is an example of how it can work. In Germany, we're not there yet, but it's obviously an aim. In terms of other collaborations, we have, for example, I mentioned before, our Ideas in Motion, the business incubation, is a partnership with Restart. And this is where we saw two organizations who are really after the same thing, wanting to create an entrepreneurship incubation program. And we're both bringing different strengths, and honestly had gaps that we needed to fill. So this was a really well-timed and very fruitful partnership that we have until now.
So my answer is yes and no. Yes, because we do work with public funds. Also in the UK, we do work with the British Museum at the moment, which is a publicly funded institution. Interestingly, it's a museum that has all the colonial collectibles and stolen items from all over the world. So it's interesting that they actually were open to hosting a festival that kind of regains those objects for the sacred context of the people that it used to belong to, you know, and kind of shows that those things were actually stolen, and some respect is owed to the people that it was stolen from. So I think that's very commendable. But no, because I mean, in Berlin, I was, before I did the festival, also with public funding from Lottery Foundation, I was in dialogue with the Senate of Berlin, and at the time the we call it Innensenator, I don't know how you call that in English, was a gentleman from the Conservative Party who, in his official function, was representing the Berlin government, but in terms of his policies was representing something that I thought would taint actually the message of what we do. So I think when you ask the question whether you work with governments, it's a yes and no situation, because you should aim at having the highest support, even just because it can increase your outreach so much. But you have to be sure that the government that you do work with and the officials that you do work with don't make you look like you're just taking the money, but you're not genuine about what you do, because you work with people who clearly don't stand for the same ideals. So in the case of that gentleman, it's just really horrible policies during the refugee crisis. And like, I thought that I couldn't stand for that, and I'd rather wait another year, find other sponsors, and not do it, you know. So interestingly, the Foreign Office in Germany told me that they think the project is great, but they wouldn't fund anything that has religion in it, because it could cause diplomatic affronts if you have certain groups performing or not, and that, so there's also that sensitivity actually.
I just want to point out that in our case, as our local work is mainly with refugees, we don't get easily any fund for that, because they believe that it's being enough done already.
Thank you for that. And so I just want to ask one final question, and then I'll let you all conclude with any additional thoughts you may have, and then we'll open it up to the audience. And so one sort of common thread amongst all of your organizations was the importance of working with youth, whether it was youth engagement, youth leadership, youth empowerment. And you offered, a few opportunities to volunteer. with your organizations. But I do want to ask you if there's any sort of one piece of advice or recommendation for the young people in this room, or in general, on how they could get more involved, either on the issues of like migration and social inclusion, or other issues they care about. What is something that you would recommend from more of an entrepreneurial perspective?
Actually, I'm sure you know that, but first, you have to decide what you really want to do. This is life. Sometimes we cannot do what we want, but you have to be more flexible for your choice. Then the right now is really there is many programs. There is many grant programs that you can manage individual. You can apply and you can learn many things by those programs. For this, in this case, you have to really good by researching, by Googling or whatever program you have it. Then a little bit more patience and time and try to learn the application form actually, because more or less everything is start in this point. How you can finalize your application form. Then everything is going to start, then more and more. Then, yeah.
Maybe Googling is a very common expression, but actually it fits in this context. Let's say first check around, maybe already the existing initiatives are there available for you, so you just become part of it and this initiative will be more stronger. If you cannot find, you can also be entrepreneurs as well yourself, and you can actually start with even one person is already enough, but you can also be a small group, but don't give up. Keep your commitment, and actually you will find the way to show your, let's say, reaction to the ongoing challenges around you. What else we can say is actually developing your own project, developing your own programs, own, let's say, opportunities also for others is also available. Maybe for you it's now a big picture, but actually to reach to that level, you just need to be committed on whatever the topic, whatever the reaction that you want to show as an individual, because right now the ongoing, let's say, global reactions are not so much appreciated by us. You also heard, even I was in Armenia last week for 10 days of training. There also they were saying we want to make Armenia great again, and so on. So I guess you will find your own, let's say, passion, and don't give up. So move towards it, and for sure you will not be alone, because there are several human beings around you or maybe close to you that wants to also do the same. But you should take the initiative, and you should be the trigger of this change.
There's lots of advice I could offer, but I think the main thing is to not assume people's needs. I think we can have the best of intentions, but we have to listen actively and really get to know the people we want to work with and build relationships. And then I would also say offer what you can and what you know and what you love. I think it has to be done with a passion, so that it also gives something to you and you feel that you're growing. But I think at the start, really listen.
So, as the advice I could give to people that wants to start a voluntary job is commitment, for sure, and compromise. We're humans working with humans, and to read, to be aware of the situation and the context you're working, the people with you are working. Keep on learning and be able to give them as much you can and to receive, as Naomi said very well. And if you think that you can give something beyond that and much more, be an entrepreneur, there are many channels. Just get the information for you. Probably all of you have a natural talent, something you like, or just a passion. Just find the ways by, as Onur say, by finding the right information, because there is many initiatives helping youngsters to raise their ideas and to build up something. So don't give up, as Ufuk said.
How does Winston Churchill say? Expect nothing but blood, tears, and sweat. No. is be like trying to do something good for society takes probably a lot more time and commitment than just having an everyday full-time job. You might not get money, you might not get the support, but I think the most important thing is, to do it with your heart, to just feed from the positive energy of the people that you're actually helping or supporting or just doing something nice for. And I guess be ready to innovate, like just be honest with yourself. If something doesn't work, it's fine, like move on. Not like abandon your ideas, but like innovate and find new and alternative ways of doing things. Be happy to incorporate others. I think, like don't have to plan 5 years ahead. Make new decisions at every crossroads and say, okay, where am I? What is working? What isn't working? And find like, how can I do different things? Accept also advice from people who may actually know better sometimes. Don't take it as criticism. It's actually good and it can help you move. And always just know that when one door closes, another one opens.
Thank you for all your answers. So in the last 10 minutes, I want to open it up for the participants to ask questions.
Okay, привет. Well, first, okay, how it went with YPIDA? Actually, it's starting with the 4 people initiative, more or less, we can say as a core, and then with the volunteering activities, you give responsibility to other people, and also when they feel they are part of the team or they are part of a group, they are also committed and they also become part of the family. And we all the time repeated that they are joining to YPIDA family. Not only the volunteers, but also people who are being part of the projects. We also try to give them, let's say, we encourage them. Actually, one interesting thing, YPIDA is actually also, let's say, we cannot name it as founder, but as the initiator of several other NGOs around Europe, Caucasus, and also the Middle East. So we are not just focusing on how we can make YPIDA actually bigger, but how also we can involve more people in this process. But for example, I'm working with the National Youth Council in Ukraine. They are not only based in Kiev right now. Several info days, regional meetings. They are not giving up. They are with the backpacks. They are traveling to the regions that are also still a little bit in danger, but informing more people, also giving them the right picture, and also making them a part of a big picture. So when they feel that they have a reason or they have influence on what is going on around the challenge that they're facing with, they will be next to you, so you can actually naturally make the group a little bit bigger.
Talking about the networks of SINGA, so we started in France in 2012, and the community was growing there, and I think a community has to grow organically, so it might start small. And talking about Germany, we did start small, and it was mainly amongst friends and acquaintances at the beginning, but when you're offering something and people like it, they tell their friends, they bring their friends, next time there are more people. So that's the way we've been organically growing our community, and with each event, it attracts a different target audience. So for example, when we offer yoga, we bring in new people we haven't seen before. When we do Singers Got Talent, all these musicians and rappers and dancers come along, and we try and bring them into the community in the long term as well. But talking from more of an institutional point of view, for example, SINGA France, one of our founders in Germany was working in SINGA France, and she felt that she could have stayed working in SINGA France, but it was actually more valuable for her to bring the SINGA concept to Berlin, which is a city that she had an affinity with as well. So that's why we've been growing. And for example, we are SINGA Deutschland, we're in Berlin, but we're also starting activities in Heidelberg as well. And that's also through a connection that one of our other founders had through her time at university there. So it's all about kind of personal and professional contacts and how you can bring people in, make them feel part of it, and open up the project to them.
In that sense, it's always useful to have a good network and also to cooperate as much as possible with initiatives around you, to keep open, to explain your vision all the time, because I think people join you more or gives you more space when there is a shared vision together, something you get in common, a passion. Of course, what you do is important to show also what you're doing and social media.
So as I said earlier, we started the first festival in London, so it was just, I guess, one person's idea, then inviting others in. The first festival, I think, had about 200 participants, maybe, or 200 people in the audience. And then the last one at the British Museum, 18,000. That was really good. But I guess taking it also to other places, I mean, it's all about persistence and patience, I guess, and just keep going. I think it's exactly what you guys said. Listening to what people actually want and like what they feel they get something of it. And not just making about you and it being your organization and your idea, but actually doing something for the people. That way they bring more people in, and that way they feel like they want to, and those people bring more people in again. So if you listen to the community that you're trying to serve, then that community will organically actually maximize your impact.
Adding an anecdote to this idea of a shared vision, I had a really wonderful experience at our very first living room cooking, where normally I would go along as one of the coordinators. I would make sure everything was running smoothly, and I would do an introduction about SINGA. But everyone was too hungry when we arrived, and so we got straight to eating. And actually, through doing, people understood much better what we are, what we do, what our values are. And at the end, it wasn't me who explained what SINGA was. It was Ayad, who is our head chef, and he explained it far better than I could, and he showed it and he lived it. And I think it's not enough to have a vision on a piece of paper. It has to be something that's lived and that people feel it and that they want to share it as multipliers.
I want to cook in your place, by the way. Yeah, I really like the cooking. I will do it probably. In 2008, as YPIDA, we did one first project in Ankara. Honestly, I want to share this special things with you. I didn't know English the first time, and there was like 5 countries, 35 participants there, and right now, after 8 years, we did project in South Korea, we did project in United States, we did project in more or less all the Europe, Middle East. We get really good network, Caucasus or many different places. So I guess if you love your job, if you say, and as you say, if you are passionable, and if you are honest, then everything is a little bit coming naturally. You don't have to push yourself too much. And spirit is also, I can say, very easy, important in this case. Like, you have to, if you trust yourself, and if you trust you do good things, I guess it will be actualized, so you don't have to be worried. Right now we have really huge network. We have changed many young people's life. We inspire them with our project, and it makes us really proud of ourselves with you.
Thank you for that. So are there any other questions before we conclude?
have a question for you. You mean our volunteers that they are working with us, or participants? The participants. In my case, it's complex because my participants are in a situation, very vulnerable situation. So I don't know actually what many. You mean regarding to the projects we do? Yeah. 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 That's why. Exactly, they have big issues. What we do actually is we have 2 consultants in the shelter house. They are refugees themselves. So I don't create a program by myself alone. I do speak with them. We involve them in the meeting. We have a Facebook group just for them, where they are even in our Facebook group for IMCAD. And then we do the strategical planification of the months of the workshops together with them. For them, it's a relief to see that people is so engaged to listen them and to go there, because they see the effort. Now we will be 1 month, 3 weeks assisting iftar. Our team, we will share iftar with them, and this is something it's a wonderful moment for listening their stories. But it's very complex because you get the stories behind are hard. So I can't tell you right now there is not a general opinion or 1 or 2. It's something I invite you to come whenever you want and join us. So sorry, maybe I didn't answer.
Actually, we have some online system to measuring their feedback. All after our project, they receive some email, some survey, and they put comment on our project. Sometimes they don't like trainer. Sometimes they maybe didn't find the time to talk much, or some of workshop maybe they were not interested, which we got feedback from participants and we change for upcoming project. This is what we do usually, but I can say actually honestly we got mostly positive feedback for giving us idea for another project. They share their idea or they share things. For example, we have all our project. We have cultural night. All the countries they bring their traditional things and share it. We got some feedback about that, or the way of how we can do. This is what we get the feedback from participants.
I think for us it's a very fluid concept of who's a volunteer and who's a member of the community. You can be both. You can just attend events, or you can put events on yourself and become a volunteer. So I'm kind of answering the question with everyone in mind, because there isn't that cut line. One of the feedbacks has been that actually people really appreciate not having to say, hi, my name is I come from because someone who told me they'd been to several events, and it's the first thing you always have to do. You have to present yourself in terms of your nationality, in terms of your passport. And what we try and do in our community meetups is actually start from who are you today? Like, what did you do at the weekend? What is it you love to do on a sunny Sunday afternoon? Where's your favorite spot in Berlin? Trying to connect on a more human level, so you see the person and the person can share who they want to be. And I think that was a very positive feedback, because it also leads back to our transcultural approach, where we try and work with more fluid identities and flexible roles. And I had another point as well. Yeah, so coming back to the idea of storytelling, I think that's a really good way when you're talking about bringing people together. People choose what stories they want to share. It's not about us asking a specific question, wanting people to tell us their stories. So, for example, we had a storytelling on music. Everyone had to bring a song that meant something to them and then share the story. You have absolute liberty to share whatever you want. You can share a song that you like to sing in the shower, but you can also share a song that has a deeper, maybe more a difficult meaning for you. So for example, one member from our community shared a song that reminded him of his journey to Germany, and it was very touching that he shared it with us, and it meant a lot. But we don't ask for people's stories, we ask people to share what they want, and we're very happy to receive whatever they want to share with us.
Yeah, it's actually difficult, I guess, because we don't do that evaluation that people have to fill in questionnaires or anything. But I can just say that everything that developed with the festival, everything that came in new was because someone asked for it. So the first festival was just what I thought would be good, like some music performances and 2 panel talks. And then people said, actually, we want more of the music and less of the panels, less of the talking. So we got more music and less of the talking. And then I also kind of found that people loved that in the foyer there was all this interactive, interfaith, intercultural discussion going on. So I thought, well, why not actually boost that space, and make it a little interfaith fair? So kind of that need of people to follow up on the curiosity that was raised with questions, like to actually offer then somewhere they could get the answers. People said, well, it would be nice to have something more participatory, so we thought about doing the music workshops and the chanting workshops. I agree that it's difficult. We did 2 projects with actually unaccompanied minor refugees. One was a workshop on. One was actually a music workshop, so I didn't really get much feedback. I guess people are just in the moment, and you have to. I think it's also okay not to ask them, oh, how was this for you, and what did you take from it? Like, just. I guess sometimes you just hope that it's doing well, but then we did a Tu Bishvat workshop, which was for the Jewish holiday of Tu Bishvat, and we actually planted some flowers together and then had some Jewish music afterwards. And the one feedback I got was, this is like the first time I ever meet a Jewish person, and also my idea about this religion was entirely, or the people who are part of that religion was entirely changed. So that was really nice feedback. What I hear most is that people just enjoy a break from this music industry that has kind of lost a lot of meaning because it's not very spiritual often, or it's very commercial. So to offer something alternative and a space where people feel like they're actually allowed to be in the moment, they're allowed to dance along or to clap along, that was always really appreciated. Or, wow, I've never known about this religion, so cool. I love that moment when people tell me that they've learned about a new religion. That's nice. Yeah.
Actually, it is true. A project is reframed several times thanks to the feedbacks. When you see, there is two parts. For one side is target group, and another one volunteers. Sometimes it's not working. Sometimes volunteers expect to go a place, to do a nice project, everything will work out, and they find out that maybe we have 3 participants, they have to go through the place to search the other ones, they are finishing 1 hour and a half later, and then they end up telling you, but why we do that? Yes, let me think. Target group, maybe you are there, they're looking at you, they need to learn the German, they need to find a flat, they have children around, they are tired, why they want to come to me and to my friends to tell us what do we teach them. So when you start to see, this is the feedback, maybe that was your question, when you see that, you have to reframe the whole system, the whole project, find out a solution for volunteers, find out a solution for your target group. So how we find out benefits for them to get more motivated. So you work on that together. So.
Well, I would like to conclude here since it's after 6. Thank you very, very much to all of our panelists. I'm sure it was both informative and inspiring. And thank you to ICD and Esteban for making this possible. And of course to the participants, thank you for engaging and having questions. And just before we depart, I would like to invite you to the table outside of this room. The organizations have cards and flyers and information about how you can get involved with them right outside the door on the table. So I invite you to pick up some information and talk to the panelists as well. So thank you again for today.